Hi Lance, it's Steve Rosenbaum. I really enjoyed meeting you the other day at the Plano Chamber of Commerce. I was thrilled to hear that you are doing webinars for your business. I do a lot of webinars, and frankly, it's a big chunk of what my business does. And over the years, I've really perfected the process. And the way is by marketing at every single step of the webinar. Every step creates another opportunity. And frankly, it's where I think most businesses get it wrong. So I thought I'd give you a peek at what I do when I work with companies on improving their webinars. So I'm going to make a quick video here. Shouldn't take more than a few minutes, but I wanted to give you a little look behind the scenes at my actual system and how cool the information and the intelligence is, so you can see just how easy it is to close sales when you do things in this way. Quick refresher, at the very end of my presentation, I showed what I called my leak-proof funnel system, which was an acronym for lead generation, engagement, action, and conversion. The flow of the process, everything I do works this way. It goes from left to right, LEAC. We're always trying to move customers from one stage to the next. This is very important in the webinar system also. That's why I wanted to give you this visual of moving everybody from one stage to the next. And once we actually make the sale, here at C is where we convert the sale. This is where the transaction happens. But notice the arrow goes back because this creates an infinite loop, and that's how we maximize revenue per customer, as I spoke about. Keep that in mind, and let me show you what a map for a webinar system looks like, because it's really the same, maybe a little bit elongated. When people do webinars, typically what they do are they do basically two things, maybe a little bit more. But here in the center, this little diamond is actually our webinar event, where it says, did they attend the event? Most people, they'll put up a registration page. That's what happens here. And a lot of times, that's where it ends. Besides the typical canned messages that go out that tell people, thanks for registering for the webinar, here's the date and time, here's the link. But what you really want to do, the really important part, is between the registration and the webinar, it is so important to hit people with what's called an intensification funnel. You want to intensify the belief that they need to be at this webinar, that they're going to learn life-changing, business-changing things at the webinar. So for me, I put up a series of 1, 2, 3 videos even before the webinar. It gives them a little preview of what's to be expected. I also create a workbook, a handout that they can download in advance. Now, from their standpoint, they get excited. They're getting a preview of what happens, and it creates that anticipation for the big event. From my standpoint, I'm watching every step along the way. I want to see who goes to this video and who watches the video, who goes here and who downloads the workbook. That information is key to me because I now know who's really paying attention and who's excited. If they get to the webinar but they don't buy, at least now I know who are some of the hottest prospects that I could follow up with. So when we do this, we track every single step beforehand. And we could put it on a spreadsheet and literally track the numbers. This is an old one that I did a while ago, from a couple years ago. But you can see where we are paying for advertising here. All right, 121 people registered here, 163 people registered here. Then how many people went to video 1? How many to video 2? This is very typical. You might get this many registrations. Your numbers might be higher or lower, but the bottom line is I can track this, and I not only know the numbers are good because it helps me manage my money and make sure I'm promoting it right, but here's where it gets very cool. Inside my system, I'm going to show you what that looks like. Here's my system in this system I've got 15,392 contacts, but I am literally tracking every step along the way. So here we go. Look at all these. This is tracking every single step along the way. I now know that I had, let's see, in this case, for this webinar, I had 162 registrants, but I know exactly who they are. Now I could tell who went from there. Hang on, let's look this up. who went from there and who watched the first video? 21 people. So I now know the 21 people that watched the first video. I could do that for the second video. I could say who downloaded the workbook. If they downloaded the workbook, they must have really been interested in the information. So if I track that, I can see that there are interesting 81 people. Now the reason why it's more is because I also sent out an email with a link to the workbook. So there was 21 people that actually went to the video and downloaded the workbook, but there was another 60 people on top of that that downloaded the workbook from an email link that I sent. And I now know who every single one of them is. Now, it gets even better than that because they go to the event and then we track, did they go to the event? Did they stay to the end? Did they buy or did they not buy? If they bought, we follow up with them a different way. We thank them for being a customer. We give them an onboarding funnel. If they didn't buy, we then have a different follow-up for them. We can bring them to a replay page, we can bring them to a frequently asked questions page, and we can certainly have our inside sales people, if you have them, contact those people and tell them, sorry you missed it, here's how you can go get a replay, here's when we're showing it again, can we answer any questions? So the key to doing this, you'll notice at every single step, we've got multiple messages getting them to the registration, multiple messages following up with them, multiple messages at every single step, and those messages are synchronized to the action they took or they didn't take. If you want to take this to the absolute next level, we can also do remarketing advertising online based upon what stage they're at in the funnel. This is where it gets super cool. It really requires a longer conversation. But the bottom line is we can synchronize our advertising online, show people a different ad depending on what stage they're at. If they're at this stage, we'll show them an ad that drives them to the video. If they missed it and we know that, we could put them in a custom audience and show them an ad that says, hey, you missed it, go watch the replay. Armed with this type of intelligence, your marketing goes to a whole new level. This is a very sophisticated system. You can do it for live webinars, and if you want to, we could even set it up for you on what's called an evergreen or a perpetual webinar where it looks like it's live and it plays like it's live, but you could show it over and over and over again using a replay, and you could pay for advertising for that replay, drive traffic to that replay. It's an extremely effective tool. Again, this is very sophisticated stuff, but I was so thrilled to hear that you were doing webinars that I wanted to show you. Lance, what I suggest you do, if you want to do something like this, let's set up a discovery meeting. There's a link below. I talked about it at the meeting. So schedule a meeting. I'm only charging Plano Chamber members $50. Normally it's $500 for that discovery meeting, but I'd be happy to get on the line with you, talk about what you're doing with your business, and give you some ideas of how you could ratchet that up even more. Thanks, Lance. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.